I just recently did a video like this where I criticized whiny liberals for playing their identity politics game, but it looks like I'll have to do it again because the stupid just keeps on coming. But this time, I might have to do it slower because brains on the political left don't seem to operate very well. They don't seem to get that they don't have to identify as a particular racial group, and then they don't have to get offended when people don't cater to their various and sundry identities. So let's see what happens when some special snowflakes think that the world owes them their identities, and I ask them why they can't just be human.
I am a Hispanic Jew, and I very much identify with both of those things.
And why do you think anyone cares? Or better question, why do you think anyone should care? How does having a Hispanic background make you a better person? How does being a Jew improve you as an individual? Because if it doesn't, why does it matter?
I would say I'm Filipino, but this country is filled with the Hardy Boys of race, and they're like, no, you're lots of other things, and we're gonna get to the bottom of this.
I'm willing to bet nobody's ever said that to you, unless, of course, they're another social justice warrior who has a race fetish like you do. Why can't you just be a decent person without regard to your racial background? What the hell is wrong with you?
My mother is Cuban and my father is Finnish American, and I identify as... I don't know.
That's the thing. You don't have a clue, and even if you did, you wouldn't have the slightest idea why you do so. It's because your ludicrous liberal mindset demands it, and you don't even have a clue why. As an attack helicopter. Oh wait, wrong video.
Kids ran up to me in school and asked me if I was Mexican, and I was like, yeah, sure. You know, I was probably, 7 or something, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'm Mexican. So I asked my mom that night, I said, Mom, am I Mexican? And she was like, no, I am black and white, and your dad is white, so you're a quarter black. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what that is, so I'm not gonna say it. I'll just say I'm Mexican.
Because kids are stupid and care about things like that. Then they grow up. When do you think you're gonna do that? You have allowed your ignorance to survive into adulthood. Well, I can't really say adulthood because you're not acting like an adult. This is another case where age and intellect clearly do not correspond.
A white Latino is you can live in two worlds, but not necessarily fully inhabit two worlds because you're always taken out a little bit.
You only live in one world because there is only one world. You're the one needlessly complicating things because you want to feel special. And of course, not only do you want to feel special, but you want to be a victim, so you not only put yourself in the situation with your identity politics, then you complain about it. Knock it off.
I'll start the morning with the British family, end it with the Pakistani, start it being stiff upper lip with fried eggs, and end it with curry and big drama.
Way to play the stereotypes. Now, I have no idea what your family's like, and I really don't care. If they were actually British or Indian, fine. I guess they have every right to act within the cultures that they actually inhabit, but you've got no excuse. I'm going to assume, based on your accent or lack thereof, that you're an American. Hence, you are part of an entirely different culture. Why would you choose to identify with those cultures if you don't actually inhabit them? Well, when you eat some really gassy foods...
To pass as white?
It means...
See? You don't even know what you're talking about, and that's not actually all that surprising. And this is where the problem with reacting emotionally, rather than thinking intellectually, comes in.
To pass as somebody who's white and therefore reap the benefits that come with being white in the world that we live in.
You're assuming that there are magical benefits just for being white, which simply isn't the case. In fact, minorities get far more benefits just because they aren't white in our society, which is racist in and of itself. That's really part of the equation because liberals have their hands out. They want to maximize their potential to get free stuff, thus going out of their way to identify as supposedly oppressed minorities at every turn when it really shouldn't matter.
You can basically live your life out in this country as a white person if you wanted to, but you could then be like, wait, but I'm actually a POC, when it suits you and when you wanted to break bread with your fellow POC brethren.
How about you just live your life in this country as a human without caring about race at all? I go through my day without ever thinking about being white because I don't care. It doesn't matter. I don't care where my ancestors came from. I don't bother to identify as anything but a human. I don't practice identity politics because identity politics are stupid. And here's a thought for you, although I know you won't exercise it. White is a color. Everyone is a POC, although that's a really stupid term. The problem is, you just hang out with a bunch of racist assholes who only want to be around you if you're identifying as part of their racist cult. And you don't see a problem with that.
I think most people think that I would pass as white, and sometimes it hurts my feelings. I would like my ethnicity to show a little bit more, I guess.
Wah! Poor widow baby, you just had your precious widow feelings hurt. Jesus Christ, do you people listen to how stupid you sound? Why would you care if your ethnicity shows? Why does your ethnicity mean the slightest thing to you, you pathetic, racist, loser asshole?
I over-explained my identity to so many people all the time. Like, they'd be like, oh, where are you from? I'd be like, Venezuela. I'm Latina. I know I don't look it, but, and they're like, it's fine. You just needed to say the country.
Because nobody cares. And I'm willing to bet that you're not actually from Venezuela. Were you born there? Or are you just trying to feel special because somebody in your family was?
I lived in Williamsburg for like 3 years in the same building, and I got asked all the time if I was like the super.
I get asked if I work at pretty much every store I shop in because I look competent and like I know what I'm doing. I mean, I was in Lowe's a couple days ago, and some guy walked up to me and started asking me questions. So I answered him, and it took him a while to figure out I didn't actually work there. I just know what I'm doing. This happens all the freaking time, but I don't get offended by it. Why do you?
I honestly feel guilty I'm this white. I feel guilty. Because I want to feel the strife of my people, but I absolutely don't. No one follows me when I go into an H&M.
Because you're a racist, you're desperate to feel oppressed, even if there's no actual oppression to feel. You're guilty because you're not a victim, but desperately want to be. What the hell's wrong with you?
A lot of my life I didn't realize I was passing without realizing I was passing, and then when I stopped passing all the time, I realized sort of how good I had it.
No, you didn't care about race until you became a card-carrying liberal asshole obsessed with identity politics. Nobody is passing as anything, and nobody needs to pass as anything because race is, or at least should be, entirely irrelevant. But then, all of a sudden, you started paying attention to race and calling attention to race, and when you get any backlash, you felt victimized. Well, stop being such a racist and just be human and see how you do.
There are definitely benefits to passing as white.
Such as affirmative action? Nope. Being able to call people racist? Nope. Being able to control the narrative and the language? Nope. Exactly which demonstrable benefits are there to passing as white? You'd really have to point those out to me.
Passing is something that perhaps I do unconsciously, which is incredibly easy for me. I'm sure there's people that wish that they could pass in times are a little difficult. Well,
there's nothing unconscious about it. It's just not giving a crap about race. When you stop caring what your skin color is, what your gender is, what your sexual orientation is, and you just start being a decent human being, people will treat you as one. But that takes actual work, and I know you liberal retards don't want to do that. You just want to pretend you're special because of your genetic makeup, without actually having to put in the effort to actually be special.
While it does come with challenges, there's enormous benefit to being both. British culture and Pakistani culture is so disparate that I feel I'm a lot richer as a person for having imbibed both as a child and being raised in both worlds.
You are not a culture. Sorry. And you cannot be part of a culture without actually living in it. So unless you live in England or Pakistan, you're not part of those cultures. You are, presumably, an American. Why not try adopting and embracing American culture for a change?
I don't fit into categories, and I think most people don't fit into categories. And growing up and living with an identity that's so weird and confusing to people has helped me and opened my mind to other people who don't fit into categories.
But that's exactly what you're trying to do, isn't it? You're trying to put yourself into a laundry list of racial groups instead of just being an individual human being. This is what identity politics does to people. It makes them oblivious to the actual world around them and what ought to be actually important.
People think that I'm everything. They think I'm Brazilian or some kind of Latina, even Jewish. I get people asking me if I'm Jewish a lot, and I actually really enjoy that. I like that I could pass for anything, really. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change the percentages or the mix at all.
You don't have to pass for anything. You should just be yourself and stop playing the liberal racist game. But of course, that means you have to make a name for yourself through your own actions, not just be considered special because of some accident of birth. And we all know you don't want to work hard to establish your own identity. It's much simpler to just play the race card and then pretend that somehow you're a victim. This is really where modern progressivism and a large swath of the political left fails today. It's part of a much larger problem, the idea that being offended ought to matter, and that you deserve to be special, and that the world needs to cater to your every whim, and if it doesn't, you're somehow being oppressed. I think the first real sign of this was the Occupy movement, where people took time to sit down in spaces and take them over, demanding change. Well, if you idiots would spend half as much time actually getting jobs and working hard, you wouldn't need change. You'd actually earn something for yourselves. But no, that's too much work, so they just want to demand it, not actually work to achieve it. So you get the whole oppression Olympics. I'm being oppressed, I'm being oppressed. No, you're not. You're being an idiot. And when you want to see oppression in yourself, you see it in everyone else as well. And then you pick an enemy and pretend that all your problems are their fault. That's the problem with the political left right now. It's a whole lot of, give me free stuff and treat me like I'm special. And if you don't, then you're an oppressive shitlord. But that's not how the world actually works, and these special little oppressed snowflakes need to figure that out. There was a point in time when liberals wanted the world to be colorblind. Not today. That would get in the way of their oppression politics. So they pretend that everyone has their own race and gender and orientation, and all of them are special. But they're not. You're made special by what you do, not by your genetic makeup. But these people don't really do anything, so they have no accomplishments to point to in their desperate need to feel unique. They've got nothing, so they have to pretend. They have to act like they're not pathetic losers, but they are. They have nothing to show for themselves, so they have to act like their very existence earns some brownie points and government checks because they're so abused by their chosen enemy that they somehow deserve it. Except they don't. They haven't earned anything. They don't deserve anything. Well, except public derision. They most certainly have earned that, but the moment that you give them what they deserve, they whine and they cry because they're pathetic little babies. Well, that's actually an insult to babies, many of whom are more mature and intelligent than these regressive racist losers. And that's sad.